Welcome to the e-learning course for Asprova hands-on training. 3. Connecting to external systems. Starting Asprova. Click on the Start button to display the Windows Start menu. Select Programs, Asprova APS, Asprova from the menu to start Asprova. Open the project file. Select File, Open from the main menu and select as3.ar4 from the folder Basic Free Data IO to open the Asprova project file for this training section. First of all, let's take a look at an overview on how Asprova connects to external systems. In the section Connecting to External Systems, we will explain about 4 major contents. 1. We will explain how to connect Asprova to an external system when the external database is a text file or a RDB relational database. In this training, we will use Microsoft Access Database as an RDB. 2. The external data source controlled the master, calendar, shift, etc. when Asprova was installed. In this state, you apply the importing. In this regard, we will explain how to incorporate the data into Asprova. At that time, we will also make a change so that the property which the user independently added can be also imported. 3. We will explain how to export the operation information outside Asprova in order to provide the operation instructions. This is performed after you have done rescheduling. 4. We will explain how to customize the import-export for menu. There are 2 ways in which Asprova can save data. 1. Saving data in a binary format. This is an Asprova inherent data format. The file extension is .ar4. All the information, such as a project, commands, and GUI settings, will be saved in one file. 2. Saving data in a database by connecting Asprova to a text file or a RDB using the Data I/O feature. A project, commands, and GUI settings will not be saved. In this section, we will practice how to make the above 2 settings in detail. At the moment, there is no data in this project file. Let's configure the data input settings so that we can import the necessary data. Open the File menu and select Data I/O Settings. Maximize the window. Asprova uses objects called DBIOs to connect with external data sources. Each DBIO object connects with one of Asprova's internal tables and one external data source table. Some DBIO objects are available in every project by default. As shown in the pop-up menu, you can copy, paste, and delete the DBIO objects freely. In addition, you can add the unique DBIO object from the bottom line of the table. First of all, let's try importing a text file into Asprova. We will import the external text file controlled information into Asprova. The following table information is the external text file control information: resource, calendar, and shift. Here we will import a text file into Asprova resource table, calendar table, and shift table. There are 5 steps. 1. Perform I/O setting for the resource table. 2. Perform I/O setting for the calendar table. 3. Perform I/O setting for the shift table. 4. Execute importing. 5. Check to see if the information on the external data file has been reflected to the various tables inside Asprova. First, let's check the contents for the external text file. The details of the text file which controls the resource information is now shown. As you can tell from the file name, the text file is stored in CSV format. The information for shift and calendar files is also in CSV format. Here we perform the settings where the text file is connected with the external data source, which employs the style of CSV format. In the Data I/O table, every row corresponds to a DBIO object. We will set up the input-output with Asprova's internal table as well as with the external data source. First, let's set the resource table. The setting for the resource table is performed against a row of code resource. Set the data source type to text file. There are 3 possible settings for the data source: text file Unicode, and OLEDB. Text file is just a standard text file. Text file Unicode means that Asprova supports Unicode and is able to simultaneously handle multiple languages in the same project data without causing characters to get garbled. OLEDB is for connecting to a database. The folder database column has 2 values depending on whether you are connecting to a text file or a database. In the case of a text file, this represents the folder that the text file is saved in. If you do not specify a folder name, Asprova will presume that the text file is stored in the same folder that the project file is saved in. The external table name is the name of the text file. Currently, it is set to res.tbl. Let's change it to another file format, CSV. The field and decimal delimiters specify the characters used to separate fields and to be used at a decimal point. The field delimiter can either be a tab or a comma. The decimal delimiter can either be a dot or a comma. Set resource to use comma and dot. The import field specifies whether or not to import and the method of import to be used. In this case, set it to yes differential. Select yes differential. Next, set the calendar table. Set the data source type to text file. Set external table name to calendar.csv. Set the field and decimal delimiters to comma and dot. CSV file style will be employed when comma and dot is set. Set import to yes, refresh. Finally, set the shift table. Set the data source to text file. Set the external table name to shift.csv. Set field and decimal delimiters to comma and dot. Set import to yes, differential. Before we import, let's check the status of the three tables, calendar, shift and resource. There is no data set in the resource table. There is no data set in the calendar table. And there is no data set in the shift table. Let's import these three tables by selecting Import from the File menu. The shift table has been imported. The calendar table has been imported. And the resource table has been imported. Change to the resource Gantt chart. As you can see, this is how the resource Gantt chart looks after importing the resource, calendar and shift information. You can see that the resources, as well as the operation times, have been accurately reflected to the schedule. Next, let's return to the DBIO settings and import the database controlled information into Asprova. There are two tables in the external database that we will import: the integrated master and the order. Here we will import such information into Asprova integrated master table and order table. In this section there are three steps. Firstly, we will set the integrated master to be linked to the external database. Next, we will set the order to be linked to the external database. And finally, we will import the integrated master and the order. Here, we will use the MDB file for Microsoft Access as the external database. Set the data source as OLEDB. Next, we will select the database for the targeted connection by clicking on the ... button of Folder Database. From here, we will select the file asprova.mdb in accordance with the following procedures. For the OLEDB provider, select Microsoft Jet 4.0 OLEDB provider, as we will use Microsoft Access this time. Please note that the screen settings and the contents may differ depending on the database used. Next, we will configure the connection settings in the Data Link Property dialog. To select the database file, click on the ... button located on the right side of the file selection text box, and then select the Asprova.mdb database file. Next, enter the username and the password. As shown, the default setting is that the username is admin and the password is empty. Note that you may have to specify the username and the password if necessary when connected to SQL Server or Oracle, etc. Use the Test Connection button to ensure that the data has been set correctly. Next, set the external table name to set the table that Asprova will connect to. Select Integrated Master from the Table List dialog. Set Import to Yes, refresh. Next, let's set the field mapping. The field mapping window shows the relationship between Asprova's internal properties and the external database's external fields. The lines between the external properties and the external fields show their relationships. The lines between the two tables show the relationship between their fields. You can set primary keys for the internal properties. In this case, the primary keys are set by default and no further settings are required. In Asprova's internal property list, right-click on a properties row and click Primary Key from the pop-up menu. A white key mark will be displayed in the primary key field. You can allow the imported data to automatically generate items or processes. In this case, no operation is necessary this time as the setting is made by default. When you double-click on the row number for final item code for the external field, you will see the Edit Field Definition dialog. When you specify Yes for Automated Generation Object, its item object will be automatically generated. This is applied when the item code which is not specified for Integrated Master. If you specify No, the item object is not automatically generated and an error message will appear in the message window. You can associate the field for the internal table and for the external table. You can map the fields one by one. However, you can do mapping as a whole, since the same numbers apply to Asprova internal table according to the MDB file prepared this time. You can click on the right mouse button and select Link by Position from the pop-up menu, which is applied to the empty area located between the internal property and the external field for the field mapping window. You can reflect the setting contents onto the system by clicking the Apply from the pop-up menu. This condition is that you have performed the mapping properly after verifying the mapping results. We have now completed the settings which connect the integrated master table to the external database. After that, the connection with the external database is also specified for the orders. Set the data source type to OLEDB. You can copy and paste the setting for folder database, as it is the same as that of the integrated master. Click on the button for external table name and select Orders table from the Table List dialog. In the Import cell, select Yes Differential. Finally, let's set the field mapping. As for the previous field mapping, the same fields are applied to both internal table and the external table. Therefore, if the links are not yet set, you can select Link by Position from the pop-up menu to link the fields. There is a unique item called CAP amongst the order information, which controls the external data source. This item specifies the item's cap by which order is produced. You also need to incorporate this property into Asprova. Let's map the cap field of the external data source into the field for Asprova order table. Finally, select Apply to set the configuration. Now you have finished setting the connection specification for the order's external database. Before we import, let's check the status of these two tables. There is no data in the order table. There is no data in the integrated master editor table. Let's execute the importing by clicking on Import. The integrated master editor table has been imported. The order table has been imported. Now that we have finished importing all of the data, let's reschedule and check that all the data has been imported correctly. As you can see from the resource Gantt chart, the orders have been correctly scheduled. We now know that all of the table information has been imported correctly. This is the end of Asprova Hands-on Training 3. Thank you for watching.